Now, I'm not saying that James Carville is a barely functioning with nothing left of value in this world. I'm not saying that at all. I'm also not saying it's pointless to tar and feather him because he still sheds his skin twice a year. And I'm also not saying if James Carville choked to death on one of his morning feedings of live mice, he wouldn't be missed. Wow, it sure is fun to not say things. I'm going to start.
Greg Gutfeld delivered a scathing reality check to James Carville, transforming the exchange into a comedic takedown fueled by his sharp wit and signature smirk. Gutfeld dismantled Carville's tired political talking points with ease, making the moment feel less like a debate and more like a lesson titled "Why Grandpa's Views Don't Hit Like They Used to." Carville struggled to keep up, but Gutfeld stayed several punchlines ahead. If you blinked, you might have missed the exact moment Carville's credibility evaporated on live TV.
Pumpkinhead just yet. Carville's like a parent who doesn't say anything about his rotten brat until it affects him and crashes his Mercedes. This problem's been here for years. It's done untold damage. It's cost a lot of death. And now he calls BS on it? Thanks, but you're showing up at last call. Let's not forget what else he said. He said that people that go to Trump rallies are pretty much brain-dead deplorables. He said some pretty awful things. If he could call them retarded, he would have. So his criticisms actually hit everyone, and it doesn't come from a place of common sense or common people. It comes from an elitist perch. He's not a man of the people. He's a man protecting the system that paid him well. On the whole, he would prefer to jail a Trump supporter who stole a podium over an Antifa creep who burns a business. So there you go.
If you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss a beat. What happened next was like bringing a flashlight to a disco ball fight, completely outshined. Greg Gutfeld didn't just enter the conversation. With James Carville, he deconstructed it, piece by piece, like a cat toying with a wind-up mouse until it stopped twitching and stopped saving face. Carville, the seasoned Democratic strategist with a southern drawl and a bag full of dated talking points, came ready to spar, but instead of trading blows, he got a reminder. Stepping into a verbal ring with Gutfeld is like trying to freestyle with a teleprompter. And to be fair, Carville's no rookie. He just walked into the wrong kind of fight.
Strategist and hairless goblin James Carville trash talked his fellow Dems in our video of the day. Roll it, Agatha.
We keep wondering why these young people aren't coming home to the Democrats, why blacks are not coming home to the Democrats. Because Democratic messaging is full of that's why.
Wow.
And talk about cost of living. And we're going to help deal with this. And don't talk about GAFA and student loans.
Kennedy, that nice little old lady is making some sense.
Right. He really is.
She's such a gentle lesbian.
This is the guy who helped Bill Clinton win the White House and practically invented the playbook for bold, bare-knuckle, political spin, but that was decades ago. The problem, no one told Carville, he's no longer in the trenches. He's broadcasting from the front porch of political retirement. He still throws out classics like "It's the economy." Stupid, but the world has moved on, or at least upgraded its Wi-Fi. On screen, he came off bloated with old-school bravado, lobbing partisan zingers that landed like AOL trying to stream a TikTok, outdated, slow, and slightly embarrassing.
Carville looks like someone liberated him from a glass tank at Petco. Glad he's taking a break from hunting down Sigourney Weaver. But is he saying these people should be placed in pajamas, have their heads shaved, and march down Pennsylvania Avenue and spit on?
I'm not saying that these people should be placed in pajamas and have their heads shaved, march down Pennsylvania Avenue and spit on. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that did happen. And I'm saying that these people betrayed the French nation.
You could practically hear the mothballs shaking as Carville launched into another breathless tirade about the far right destroying democracy. Never mind that he couldn't define radical if it live-streamed its resume in front of him. Then came Gutfeld. Greg doesn't just shut down nonsense, he marinates in it, roasts it, shrink-wraps it in sarcasm, and lobs it back with a smirk and a line that lands. For him, Carville wasn't a threat, he was target practice. A chance to torch every wheezing, old-school talking points still stumbling around for relevance. Gutfeld got it. Carville wasn't debating. He was auditioning for applause.
Like a therapist to the Democrats. Democrats are like a patient. And he's just tired of their constant whining without actually doing the work that a therapist would tell you to do.
That was red meat for the kind of cable news crowd who still think peak political insight came wrapped in a sax solo on late night TV. So Gutfeld did what he does best. He didn't take the bait. He took over the moment. While Carville raged about so-called extremism, Gutfeld calmly pointed to the real absurdities, like insisting men can get pregnant, bragging about a booming economy while people drown in credit, or blaming every problem on Russian bots. In 2025, it felt like watching someone throw punches at a hurricane. The harder Carville flailed, the wider Gutfeld grinned. And then came the desperate move. Carville tried to pull rank with the classic "I've been around longer" line, as if time served was the same as relevance earned.
The idea that there's like a Republican plant. What is wrong with that 10 or 15% of Democrats that everything that they say, this plant or whomever it is, it's a progressive, it's not a Republican. Let's mutilate kids. Let's put men and women's locker rooms, and let's make sure that we have these drag shows for kids. And they're like, yay! It's their fault. It's stupid. And he's right.
Dana, did I hear Jessica say that we should doge electric cars?
Gutfeld didn't even blink. He coolly pointed out that longevity doesn't equal wisdom, it just means your stories are older. And no one's crowding around to hear them, especially when they all end with "so we need more taxes." As Carville launched into another forehead vein-popping tirade about right-wing deception, Gutfeld leaned back like he was watching a toddler try to explain rocket science, relaxed, amused, and completely What landed in 1992 now crashes in the TikTok era. The audience has evolved. They're not buying the recycled doomsday script, especially when it's coming from the same guy who's been shouting it since Blockbuster was charging late fees. Today's viewers want punchlines with their politics, truth with teeth, and arguments that don't feel microwaved from the Clinton archives.
Is that Carville's right, because, who's more likely, to get hit by lightning? Somebody who's sitting in their couch at home, or somebody who goes out at night for a run? Anybody who actually takes action puts themselves at risk. And this is an administration that's always in action, always in play, a lot like you on the weekends.
Cart, to see insight into, what Carville says, I don't know how he became the wise man of politics.
Carville showed up with a political slingshot, flimsy arguments stretched thin, loaded with panic pebbles, aimed at anyone who still panics when he yells racist or threat to democracy. Gutfeld, meanwhile, dropped a precision strike of logic, humor, and clarity. No yelling, no desk slamming, just razor-sharp delivery from a guy who seems to know the punchline before the setup. Carville rubbed his chin, pale and uneasy, but the storm wasn't over. Gutfeld moved from exposing lazy talking points to tearing apart the deeper absurdity. Carville's worldview, where anything right of Bernie Sanders is fascism, and questioning the government lands you on a watch list. In that world, disagreeing with progressives means you're one bad haircut away from a Capitol riot. It's political math where 2 + 2 equals racism and asking questions equals sedition. Gutfeld didn't just poke at this logic, he ripped it open and showed the audience what was inside. Nothing but recycled fear and empty narratives.
James Carville's wondering if there's a plant in the party, pushing them to back the dumbest ideas possible. Watch.
It's like there's a plant somewhere in quote progressive unquote America that just sees how many stupid things that they can embrace. There has to be a AI generated progressive generator of real.
Carville and others like him are stuck in their own mythology, out of step with the present. They act like they're still starring in a political epic no one's watching, delivering monologues to an audience that left years ago. Cue the usual end-time script: climate disaster, democracy in shambles, economic doom, all delivered, predictably, by the same voice that's declared every election the apocalypse since the days of flip phones. Gutfeld wasn't buying it. He called it what it is: performance, not perspective. Chicken Little in campaign gear with a hot mic. And those ordinary voters Carville claims to represent, they tuned out somewhere around his fourth point of no return. How many times can someone say, This is the most
certain coastal arrogance in this country, and people feel it. The Western far left is habitually the most stupid, naive people you can imagine. And they come up with these really goofy constructs, and it's all about feeling.
with just a smirk, a sharp one-liner, and takedown after takedown. Gutfeld didn't just beat Carville, he reduced a political relic to a footnote. And he didn't need anger or insults to do it. He used something way more powerful: humor, accuracy, and the kind of timing that hits when it matters most. But here's where it gets real. Gutfeld didn't just roast Carville. He peeled back the curtain on the whole machine behind him. The think tanks, media panels, and TV experts who nod along as Carville warns of democracy collapsing, while conveniently ignoring that their own side is labeling parents as domestic threats and locking people up. For me, Gutfeld reminded viewers, the game has changed. People aren't buying spin anymore. They want honesty, humor, and someone who doesn't talk down to them. Carville was stuck in a time loop. Gutfeld broke the code and made the crowd laugh while doing it. By halfway through, Carville looked less like a battle-hardened strategist and more like a guy who clicked the wrong Zoom link. His comebacks got shaky, his voice louder, and his points kept looping like a jammed cassette. And Gutfeld, still cool.
Post ran a fluff bomb celebrating centrist Democrat women, going gaga over their resumes, mom energy, and group chat chemistry. But in this journalistic stroke job, not a single policy position was mentioned, which is weird. That's like doing a profile on me and not mentioning my many bodybuilding awards. Thank you. So why is that? Why'd they bend so far backward to avoid a basic stance? Maybe because in the current state of their party, it's better just to keep your head down and to stay safe. They substitute substance with nicknames, the Mod Squad or the Badass Caucus. But
Gutfeld didn't need to shout. He just kept dropping truth like banana peels, and Carville slipped on every one. Every comeback turned into a stumble. When Carville tried switching to unity and bipartisanship, Gutfeld didn't miss a beat, because really, nothing says let's unite like spending decades calling half the country racist, dumb, and deluded. Gutfeld sliced through the hypocrisy. You can't mock people for years and then ask for a group hug. Real unity starts with listening, something Carville's been avoiding since floppy disks were still in drawers, and the best part, Gutfeld stayed cool. He turned the whole exchange into a live comedy roast, and the audience was loving it. You could practically hear millions nodding and laughing as Carville's tired rants unraveled, outdated, overplayed, and dripping with self-importance. Social media lit up, memes flew. Carville had written Gutfeld off as just a late-night comic. What he missed is that Gutfeld's a sharp operator, a master at blending truth with humor, and never needing to raise his voice to land a knockout.
President a month into his presidency than any president in United States history. That's the fact. I can be fact-checked. They can do whatever they want.
That's fine.
We can go.
This in 2025, he's at plus 4 points. Look where he was in 2017, his first term at this point. He was at minus 5 points, so he's doing nearly 10 points better on the average. And more than that, as I mentioned, it's not just the CBS News poll, it's the Ipsos poll, it's the Gallup poll, it's the Pew poll.
You're reading these polls, and I'm reading a poll saying the Democrats are 13 points up in the congressional generic, that Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating of any president at this point in his presidency in American history. So your viewers are getting one view, and I'm reading another view. So one of us is right and one of us is wrong.
He's in every single day. Donald Trump has been in positive territory compared to just 11 days during his first term.
It's not going to do any good for us to sit here and argue, because your viewers can believe you, and they can go to real clear politics, and they can.
Gutfeld doesn't bluster. He sets the stage, lays the trap, and lets his target walk right into their own punchline. By the end, it wasn't even a contest. Carville looked like a man who just lost an argument with his GPS, while Gutfeld looked like he'd barely warmed up. No notes, no bruises. Just another relic of the political past, flattened by sharp comedy. But this wasn't just about Carville, it was about everything he represents. The aging establishment still peddling fear and outrage like it's 1995. Talking to a public that tuned out long ago. Gutfeld didn't just take down a man, he peeled back the layers of a worn-out worldview, dusted off the cobwebs, and showed just how empty it's become. Carville marched in like it was still 1988, armed with Cold War quips and Reagan-era punchlines, as if social media never happened. What once hit hard now sounded like static from a dying AM radio. The world had moved on, and Gutfeld
aren't losing the black and Hispanic vote. They're losing the black and Hispanic men, right? Why don't they break that down, that men are fleeing the Democratic Party like it's a showing of Barbie? It's because it's terrifying to them that they're becoming the party of awfuls, right? Affluent, white, female liberals. The Democratic Party has become like almost like a political version of the Bud Light commercial with Dylan Mulvaney. They've alienated men in order to please miserable activists. And men are like, hey, we know when we're not wanted. We'll see ourselves out. We know what a woman is, right? We know what's best for our kids. We know what it takes to protect our cities and our families. And we're tired of apologizing for laughing at funny jokes and at having natural testosterone, right? So they know that the Democratic Party has become a gender-specific.
Gutfeld didn't show up for a nostalgia tour. He came armed with a reality check, wrapped in sarcasm and scorched earth wit. While Carville peddled panic, Gutfeld delivered clarity. While Carville recycled outrage, Gutfeld fired off truth. With sniper precision, this wasn't just a generational divide, it was a brutal wake-up call. Modern politics belongs to those who think faster, joke sharper, and cut through the legacy media fog without blinking. The message hit hard. If you're still tossing out Cold War references and Reagan-era punchlines in 2025, you're not part of the solution, you're just background noise. And in Gutfeld's world, relics aren't demolished. They're quietly retired.